Yeah, so you mentioned that we've seen the KD and Harden duo, which looks pretty good for the Nets, but we have a new game, and it's called Fill the Lane, excuse me. And the first question is, the first game that we will see KD, Kyrie, and Harden is you fill the lane.
I would think it's tomorrow against Cleveland, although I don't think Kyrie...
Reportedly.
I don't know if Kyrie's played in Cleveland
since he left for Boston.
This is the first game against his first game with the Celtics.
Yep.
When Gordon got hurt.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
He literally was like,
yep. Mm-hmm. I took pride in taking note of every Cleveland game when he was in Boston too. I was like, here's another one. This is convenient.
I think Kyrie is going to need some additional conditioning that will keep him off the court until after Cleveland.
I have a feeling that's going to.
I think the pressure is on him to come back. I mean, you saw him today in his press conference on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I think I was talking with you guys about Kyrie before, and like, I don't dislike Kyrie. I do not dislike Kyrie. I think he's a different dude. I think he does not know, and a lot of people are like this, not a lot, but some, that they don't know what makes themselves happy. Their happiness is so fleeting. 1 minute it was, I want to win a championship. Then he said, I wasn't really happy winning. And then he didn't want to be the understudy to LeBron. Then it was, I want to go to Boston. That's where my dad played college ball. I have great memories there. He has great memories there.
And we bought it.
I want to play for Brad Stevens. He's a great coach.
I mean, if you allow him, he would love to return for another year. But I digress.
Who?
Continue.
Kyrie?
Yeah, remember he told the fans that if they would allow him.
Exactly. So that was
winked, bamboozled, and led astray.
Where's Stephen at when you need him?
Yeah. I'm not happy in Boston. I don't like that. I can't be a leader. This thing. I want to go home. So all of a sudden he was this huge fan growing up. I don't remember hearing anything about that. All my, Jersey's in my heart, New York. So now, and then he does this.
Which I understood that one. That was the one I was like, you know what, I could get on board with it. You want to be closer to home. I get it. But at the same time, it felt dirty.
You have to hope that makes him happy.
Exactly,
Let's, and it's like, does he seem happy now? Like, and let's say he has some personal stuff, then, it's different now that I'm playing at home. Well, you want to play at home. Some players, as you guys know, don't want to play in their hometown.
No.
Like, it's actually harder as a player.
It's been like that for years. Like, some do not trade me to LA. Yeah. No, my mama, my uncle, no.
Everybody gonna be asking for something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm good. Now there's the Kawhi and the Paul Georges and the guys who want to play in front of their home fans. But you ask a lot of these brothers off the record whether they'd like to get traded to the place they grew up, the answer will be hell no. Right. Keep me here because my family off the chains. So if I'm, but Kyrie, you just hope that he can get his mental together, play good basketball, and whatever happens, happens. I know he's gonna finish his career with a lot of people misunderstanding him, with a lot of probably potential, not enemies, but people who dislike him. And I get that. I don't dislike Kyrie. He's a handful. Like he's a total handful. And you hope that does not take away from the fact that he is an extremely skilled player. We saw him close up for 2 years. And when he's on, when that three ball is dropping, he's throwing those high floaters off the glass. He's spinning and turning. Like, he is brilliant. But we don't see it enough. He was hurt. He was hurt most of last year. Now he took a 7-day break. Just a 7-game break. Like, hey, like I wish I could do that. Like, let's take him. Like, I'm come aboard. Yeah, I ain't coming in today. I see you when I see you. Though I let you know how I'm doing. Like, and okay, well, let us know. My goodness. But hey. That's the way of the world, and I just hope that he can find that happiness. That's all.
I do want to give him some props, though. As negative as the press coverage is for him, and that's not to say that he hasn't set himself up for that negative attention. It was recently reported that Steven Jackson said that Kyrie just bought a house for the family of George Floyd, who we know was killed last year. So in the midst of the chaos, there is a lot of good that comes out of him. I think he doesn't get enough credit for the good that he does, even in Jersey, in his hometown. So I do want to give him a little light for that, because
that's that Jersey.
I do appreciate it. You know, I gotta give the Jersey love, because he does get so much slack. It's like
Jersey
he's doing good.
Jersey
wow. She's coming at my whole life for no reason.
See, here's the thing about Kyrie, though. His heart, I've never questioned. It's always in the right place. Absolutely. It's when you go north of his heart that problems arise. I mean, to your point, Gary, him taking 7 games off, to me, it's not a big deal, except you start looking at the receipts and you realize he didn't reach out to his coach to let him know he was taking time off.
That's the issue. And people are trying to make this pay time off analogy. And it's like, all right, but if you're asking for PTO, you usually let your boss know in advance. Like, hey, can I get 7 days off? That's the comparison that people need to clarify. Like, it's okay to take a break. We all need mental health days if that's the case, but you have to tell people. Unfortunately, whether you will like it or not, as a $1 million player, you have to let your boss know where you're going before you make these moves.
Well, I agree. I do think that we have had a lot more respect for mental health and regard for mental health than we had in previous years and generations, where there's no player of the previous generation that could have done this. Magic, Jordan, even early LeBron could not have taken 7 games off to get their chill on and get their head right. Like,
which is unfortunate though, when you think about it.
Yeah, unless they would have had some kind of medical situation, or let's say the team, because a lot of these teams now have, psychologists to deal with, and you could, unless that was the case. And I don't know if that makes them tougher. I just think I'm glad we do take mental health a lot more serious than, when we grew up, Sherrod was, that dude ain't right. He crazy.
You had to thug it out.
He just left. He crazy. Yeah. There was no ADHD. It was, boy, you eating too much sugar. You got the sugars. Why you running around like that? Like, calm down, go to sleep. Put a cloth on your head. I mean, it was like mental health. There was none of this ADHD, none of these bipolar. It was like, you ain't right, and you need to go see somebody for that, and then get back to me. Like, we disregarded it, and now we don't. And I think that's amazing that we don't. But you're right. Kyrie definitely has to inform the Nets, and Kyrie's not the only one out here who's affected by that too. I think that there's 449 other NBA players who are like, I didn't like that, what went down in the Capitol either. I ain't, it makes you reflect too, but I still went out there and played ball. And I'm still trying to earn money and put food on the table. So for you I do think it was kind of a selfish act, because he had 15 other teammates who were literally going out there without him trying to win ball games. And so what does it say? So you're special now. If he had, I don't know particular circumstances, so I'm sure, and he's not going to explain it, so we just have to accept it. But I do think that there was somewhat selfish, because if that was the case, if we all wanted to just take a week or 2 off when things weren't right, we would, but we can't. And a lot of these players can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, was the crux of my issues with Kyrie. It was just a very selfish act. It put whatever issues that you were dealing, not just in front of those surrounding you, but in place of every other issue that could be out there. And you're right, Gary. I mean, a lot of players, that I've reached out to, they were noticeably affected by what happened, at the Capitol building. But to your point, Gary, they still went out there and did their job. And I'm not saying Kyrie is bad because he didn't do that. I'm saying he's selfish because he didn't let folks who actually have his best interests at heart, his teammates, his coaches, didn't let them know that was happening. I mean, I felt so bad for Steve Nash when he was asked, what's the latest on Kyrie? I have no idea. I haven't talked to him. I reached out to him, but he didn't get back to me. I'm thinking like, damn.
I also think it lets people know that as much as Kyrie's a great player, not every great player is meant to be a leader. Not every great player is meant to be a leader of men on the floor. Now, maybe I'm sure Kyrie is leading off the floor in his community efforts, and he is setting the groundwork and becoming a trailblazer in that sense. So I applaud him there. But like, this is this was supposed to be a leader in Boston. This was supposed to be the guy who was like, no, I'm going to show you how this is done, Jason. I'm going to show you what to do here, Jalen. Like, this was supposed to be the guy. And the Celtics relied on him to be that guy. And he let them down in that sense. Like, he was not the leader that the calming influence, the Olympic champion, the NBA champion, the #1 overall pick, the guy who came was still young, but came with all the credentials on his resume and was supposed to lead these guys into prosperity. I think that was the most disappointing aspect of his time in Boston, was that he just let his different personalities and all that stuff he was going on affect how he interacted with his teammates. You know, the entire conversation with KD at the All-Star game, basically, we need to go play together. We need to make this happen. And then he denied it. I mean, things that just went down in Boston. I know the Celtics are not unhappy that he left.